Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at the 3 worst moments of the Floor Guardians. And yes, the attack on the Holy Kingdom will be among these 3. So just, there are some spoilers in this video that I will explicitly mention when we get to them. But before we go and take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, and say my thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's take a look at the topic at hand. And we are going to start with Mare and Aura, because what could be more heart-touching than watching 2 children grow up? They play, they laugh, they learn, they erase entire kingdoms. Sounds not particularly problematic until the last point, right? But that's exactly the issue. While conquering the kingdom of Ruthless, Aura and Mare were diligently getting rid of the enemies of Ainz Ooal. And one could clearly see why the 2 children have negative karma. They care about what their parents, in this case Buku Shagama, would think of them, or what Ainz, their surrogate father, thinks of them. But the suffering and misery of other people who are not part of their familiar environment are of little concern to them. What do I care for if the world burns? As long as my family is okay and as long as I pass the next math test, would summarize the mindset of the twin Floor Guardians very well. And in the 14th volume, we also got insight into Mare's mindset, and he was often unsure and worried if the earthquakes were good enough, if he could manage to level the entire city to the ground fast enough and to the satisfaction of his creators. And he had to motivate himself and be cheered on to find the strength to continue. Again, not because he cared about the well-beings of humans, but because he was afraid of failing his task and disappointing his foster father Ainz and his mother, Buku Shagama. And Aura was similarly disinterested and unempathetic when it came to the fate of outsiders. Aura loves her pets. She cherishes them. She doesn't want them to fight. She cares for them, pets them, and can understand them on an intuitive level, so she has a lot of empathy. But the people who stood in her way while she was recovering the statue of Armageddon evil were simply eradicated, without even bothering to let her victim finish the dramatic speech he was just giving. Aura simply took out Westerklof die Läufin with her bow, and afterwards, Aura just barely realized that the students of Wester were still around, standing there frozen in fear, and only after she remembered, she gave her pets permission to eat them. The next cruelty of the Floor Guardians is about the realm of the Holy Kingdom, and thus it will contain some spoilers for the movie. And Demiurge had degraded the nation, at least the northern part of it, to a happy farm. Here, one can clearly see how the so-called bad folk use their children as tools to intimidate the opposing side. You see the smoke, the blood, and the ashes around Demiurge. You see the burning fortification and the huge army. And that's just the surface level of cruelty. Demiurge has flayed thousands of people alive. However, the humans were not simply left to their fate afterwards, but medically cared for, with healing magic. Not to save them, but to ensure their skin could regrow. They're not saved, they're not healed. They are being kept alive. And Ainz Ooal still believes to this day that Demiurge is referring to actual bipedal sheep when he speaks about his human happy farm, his human cattle ranch, his human livestock, simply because Demiurge thinks that Ainz understands this sadistic reference, while Ainz believes that Demiurge is breeding chimeras. Additionally, Demiurge genuinely enjoys breaking Remedios Custodio emotionally and playing with her innermost wishes, dreams and hopes, which are embodied by the Queen of the Nation, Calca Besares. And what happens to the Queen of the Land is best seen for yourself, so don't beat yourself over the head with any thoughts about her fate. Moving on to Shalltear Bloodfall and dealing with the Quaggoa. Shalltear Bloodfallen, as a Floor Guardian, is very, let's call it, strict and dominant with her own subordinates, such as the 2 vampire brides accompanying her. She had no problem not only to eradicate the death-spreading brigade, but also has taken visibly pleasure in destroying it, after driving them into near madness through fear and terror. The image of Shalltear in her vampiric leech form speaks volumes about her true self. However, the conquest of the Quaggoa was even more intense and had a certain level of tragedy to it. And I don't want to portray the whole thing as a single, one-sided morally bad slaughter, because the Quaggoa are anything but innocent, and the entire war against the dwarves would have ended if the Quaggoa had their way, with the Quaggoa invading the last dwarven city and exterminating every single dwarf they found, simply to end the threat that they pose, and to end the resource war for the scarce ores in the mountains once and for all. But Shalltear had received 2 instructions from Ainz Ooal. She should first and foremost make it clear to the Quaggoa, through words and words alone, that they should better submit to Ainz. Only after the negotiation failed, Shalltear was allowed to proceed and to decimate the entire population of the Quaggoa, until only 10,000 Quaggoa remained alive. The problem was that Shalltear was under a lot of pressure, as she wanted to prove herself to Ainz Ooal after fighting him while under mind control. She wanted to prove that she could follow the orders of Ainz, and not to deviate from it, after she slightly deviated from it during the raid on the death-spreading brigade. And someone like Cocytus would have known that you only needed to make the Quaggoa realize their own hopeless situation in fighting against, for example, a couple hundred of their best warriors. This would simply lead to such a devastating blow to morale being dealt that they would simply surrender. And remember, Periuru, the leader of the Quaggoa, was not a wild beast, but a good and wise leader who could be ready and willing to negotiate. And through his vassalship to the Frost Dragons, he had also shown that he would be willing and able to serve under a more powerful being than him. However, tragically, Shalltear and Aura didn't have this information, because Ainz has faced off against Ularsir Dark Halelial, the leader of the Frost Dragons, without them. So Shalltear just followed Ainz Ooal's instructions to the letter, and once she out of the blue offered the Quaggoa, without showing her force, without showing her strength, to surrender. And this offer was rejected. In her mind, the only option left was to reduce the Quaggoan population to a more docile and manageable level. And again, Shalltear could have stopped fighting at any time. She wasn't in her blood frenzy status this time, and Periuru would have gladly capitulated and saved as many of his Quaggoan as possible. But he simply didn't got that option. It was this strict adherence to orders that outweighed any room for some initiative from Shalltear, and in a just slightly different situation. One with a bit more diplomacy and a more detailed exchange of the power levels of Shalltear. Shalltear could have achieved her goal without any bloodshed. A mere display of her power would have sufficed to demonstrate her authority to all. But Shalltear had other goals. She wanted to prove to herself and to Ainz Ooal that she could follow his orders to the letter. So this entire thing is so tragic because this entire thing was so avoidable. And with that said, now it's your turn. What do you think about the great crimes of the Floor Guardians? Let me know it down in the comment section. Do you have even worse examples of the Floor Guardians being blatantly evil? Let me know this down as well. And while you type, I say thank you very much for watching, and, as usual, special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dragonaut Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Thuralshivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Karakos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss Rak Edsmeshar, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.